On today's episode, Toughest Mudder South recap with our men's and women's second place finishers, Shaun Stephens-Whale and Allison Tai.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Will Hicks, and I am thrilled you are listening. Thank you. You are listening to the number one rated OCR podcast in the world, thanks to listeners like you leaving ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Seriously, check the numbers for yourself. On today's episode, we're going to look at some numbers and statistics from Toughest Mudder South, and then talk with the second place finishers from the men's and the women's side. Shaun Stephens-Whale was a guest on our show last year after his third place finish at Toughest Mudder Whistler. If you don't know his name, you will soon. He's an exciting young athlete to watch this year. The second place woman at Toughest Mudder South was Allison Tai. Allison is a good friend of the show. She did so well at so many races. At the end of last year, she was practically my co-host for a while there. Before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at World's Toughest Podcast. And you can find us on Amazon Alexa by enabling the World's Toughest Podcast skill. You can be a part of the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Amazon, and I will read it on a future episode. Just search Apple Podcasts or Amazon for World's Toughest Podcast and click Write a Review. That's the show Instagram, World's Toughest Podcast. My personal Instagram is Will Hicks. You shouldn't follow that one, though. It's boring. All I post on my personal Instagram is screenshots of my HQ trivia wins. I've won twice. No big deal. Will326. Before we talk with Shaun and Allison, let's talk about Toughest Mudder South. No. Before we talk about Toughest Mudder South, let's talk about some big news about Tough Mudder Philadelphia. The course map was just released online, and the Philly Tough Mudder Full will be one 10-mile course. You can see the course map on our Instagram page, World's Toughest Podcast. Clearly, TMHQ has heard the reaction from the community. I'm glad everyone was able to accept change without freaking out. I'm glad everyone reacted calmly and maturely when faced with something they didn't like. Check out the map online. They did a very good job of laying out the course with the 10-mile, 5-mile, and 5K courses. If you look at it carefully, it almost looks like the first 5 miles of the course is run, and then you drop off the Tough Mudder half folks at the finish line, their finish line, and then the Tough Mudder Full runners go off for their own private 5-mile trip to finish out the 10 miles. It's not 2 loops of a 5-mile course. It's a 10-mile course with a front half and a back half. I looked at some old course maps I have lying around. When Tough Mudder Half became a thing, that's kind of the way the courses went, similar to how Tough Mudder Philadelphia is laid out. The first 5 miles of a course had the Tough Mudder Half obstacles, and that 5 miles would end up back at the Mudder Village so that the half runners could finish their course. There'd be like a decision point where Tough Mudder Half people turn left and Tough Mudder Full people go right to finish their run. You could say we were doing 5-mile loops back then. The difference is this year we've been doing the same 5 miles over and over again like a high school kid on a school track. At Philly, it'll be 10 miles of unique terrain with none of it repeated, with no obstacles repeated or doubled back on, and with much shorter lines at all the obstacles, especially the last 5 miles. This does not mean that all courses from here on out will be a single 10-mile course. When Tough Mudder decided to go to the 5-mile loop format, they locked themselves into some smaller venues, and some of those venues just don't have room for a 10-mile course. So please temper your expectations. Another thing to consider, Philly is the site of the first Tougher Mudder Regional Championship, the 10-mile competitive Tough Mudder race. So this could be just a Tougher Mudder thing. This could be an experiment to see what happens and see how the community and the first-timers react. Honestly, we don't know exactly what it means, but we know it is a good thing. So, well done, TMHQ. When I learn more, I will let you know. If you know more and you want to pass it along, even anonymously, shoot me an email, willhicks@gmail.com. Now, let's talk Toughest Mudder South. Before we get into the numbers, Tough Mudder rolled out their new competitive pledge at the start line. Here's Sean Corvell at the Toughest Mudder South start line.
As a Tough Mudder competitor, I pledge that. I understand Toughest Mudder is a challenge-ending race. I will honor my competitors with my best. I will maintain the spirit of Tough Mudder in competition with teamwork and camaraderie. Okay, I'll know in the future to break that one up. I will not whine. Or quit. And I will overcome all fears. That's who you all are. DJ Becker, play 9 for me. Let's warm it up, y'all. You got a little time to warm up those muscles.
Well done, Sean. Good to hear you again. I hope nobody got the old pledge tattooed on their body anywhere. Toughest Mudder South was the first Toughest Mudder of the 2018 season. The weather was clear at 63 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 Celsius at the start of the race, dropping to a low of 56 degrees or 16 Celsius at 7 a.m. as the race went on. There was no rain or wind to speak of. The course was 5 miles long with 18 obstacles per lap. 413 runners started the race. 321 men ran along with 92 women. The field was 77% men, 23% women. 42 men ran 30 miles to qualify as a contender at World's Toughest 2018. That's 42 of 319 men, or 13% of the men qualified as contenders. 29 women ran 25 miles to qualify as a contender at World's Toughest 2018. That's 29 of 91 women, or 32% of the women qualified as contenders at Toughest Mudder South. So 71 out of 413 runners qualified as contenders at Toughest Mudder South, or 17%. One of the first questions I was asked after the race, how did this race compare to the other toughest mudders? Was this the toughest mudder? The short answer is no, but let me talk about why. There's not a definitive way to answer the question, so let me lay out some numbers for you. Last year at Toughest Mudder, if anyone ran 25 miles, man or woman, they would qualify as a contender at World's Toughest Mudder. 25 miles was the benchmark goal for most people going into Toughest Mudder in 2017. People would plan their entire race around that 25-mile goal. In 2018, Team HQ moved the goalposts a bit. To get contender status at World's Toughest 2018, you need to run 25 miles if you are a woman or 30 miles if you are a man. since Team HQ changed the benchmark for the men, it will affect the goal setting for a certain number of the men going into the race. It's difficult to know how much of an impact that will make, but it's not going to make an impact. There will be an impact. In order to compare year to year, though, apples to apples, we're going to keep that 25-mile number as a benchmark. So, at Toughest Mudder South this weekend, 413 started the race, 155 ran 25 miles, 38% ran 25 miles. So 38% of the runners at Toughest Mudder South ran 25 miles. 38%. This weekend was the first Toughest Mudder of 2018, but the 7th Toughest Mudder ever. Last year at Toughest Mudder Philly, 29% of the runners finished 25 miles. And at Toughest Mudder UK in 2017, 33% finished 25 miles. Toughest Mudder Whistler last year, 37% ran 25 miles. So Philly had 29%, UK had 33%, Whistler had 37%, and Toughest Mudder South in Texas this year had 38% of their runners run 25 miles. So was Texas the fourth toughest Mudder? That would put them right in the middle. 3 harder, 3 more difficult, and 3 less difficult. Is Texas the fourth most difficult? Maybe. But with the changed mileage goal this year, it's difficult to say that definitively. As a side note, if you ran Toughest Mudder South last week, you should Google Toughest Mudder South 2018 results and check your results. I talked with one person this week that I know qualified as a contender but was not given credit for all their mileage. Check your results and make sure they are correct. Here's another way to look at the difficulty of the course. At Toughest Mudder South this year, the top 5 men and the top 5 women ran an average of 39.5 miles. You take the top 5 men, add their miles together, take top 5 women, add their miles together, add those 2 numbers together, divide it by 10. The average mileage for the top 10 men and women at Toughest Mudder South was 39.5 miles. Last year at Toughest Mudder Philly, the top 10 average was 36 miles. At Whistler, it was 37.5. Europe was 38 miles. Texas this week, 39.5. Again, the fourth most difficult, or the fourth, using that metric, it shows it as the fourth most difficult course. Who won the race? Let's talk about the elites. The top 5 men finishers were, in first, Ryan Atkins with 45 miles in 7 hours, 33 minutes. In second, Shaun Stephens-Whale with 45 miles in 7:57. In third, Brian Gowiski with 45 miles in 8:23. In fourth, Robert Wiltshire with 40 miles in 7:37. In fifth, Christopher Mendoza with 40 miles in 7:38, 1 minute behind fifth place. Ryan Atkins finished in first place with 45 miles. Atkins is the men's reigning champion of World's Toughest Mudder. Atkins is the greatest endurance athlete in the world. There are 2 or 3 men you could argue are almost as good as him or could beat him if the conditions were right. But the fact is, Atkins has never lost a race 8 hours or longer, including winning first place at the 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder 5 years in a row. He's not invincible, and Father Time is undefeated. But right now, Atkins is on top of this particular world. In second place was Shaun Stephens-Whale with 45 miles. Shaun finished in third place last year at Toughest Mudder Whistler, which was won by Ryan Atkins. Shaun has a background in tower running, races from the ground up to the top of tall buildings like the Eiffel Tower. But Shaun has been moving toward more traditional ultra running and obstacle course racing the last year. We're going to talk with Shaun in a few minutes. In third place was Brian Gowiski with 45 miles. Brian was our guest on the podcast a few episodes ago. Brian's national relay team finished in first place at World's Toughest Mudder in 2017. Toughest Mudder South was Brian's first Toughest Mudder. In fourth place was Robert Wiltshire. Robert is a new name to me, although he's been active in OCR since 2014. He has about 15 different Spartan races under his belt, including 4 podium finishes. In 5th place was Christopher Mendoza with 40 miles. Chris is one of only 7 men to run 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder and earn the coveted orange jacket. That orange jacket is coveted because of what it means, not because of what it looks like. Chris also has his own theme song. Christopher Mendoza. The top 5 women finishers were, in first, Rhea Coble with 40 miles, 7 hours and 45 minutes. In second, Allison Tai with 40 miles in 7:57. In third, Lindsay Webster with 35 miles in 7 hours and 9 minutes. In fourth, Alexandra Walker with 35 miles in 8 hours and 18 seconds. In fifth, Margaret Kaderli with 30 miles in 7 hours and 18 minutes. And first was Rhea Coble. Rhea is the women's reigning champion of World's Toughest Mudder. She tied the women's record with 90 miles in 24 hours in 2017 and set a record by being the first person, man or woman, to win World's Toughest Mudder wire to wire. I say that a lot about her. It's never been done, and we didn't think it would ever be done. Even during the event, I was watching the race, watching the results with other people who know, and we saw how Rhea was doing and how fast she was going, and we were kind of waiting, like, is she going to blow up? When's it going to happen? And she never did. That's why it's a remarkable feat. Second place was Allison Tai. Allison ran 5 toughest mudders in 2017, winning 2 of them and finishing on the podium for the other 3. With her top 3 performances at Toughest Mudder last year, she won the 2017 Toughest Mudder Series. In third place was Lindsay Webster. Lindsay has won more Toughest Mudder races than any other woman, with her 3 wins in 2017. This is her first Toughest Mudder that she has not finished in first place. In fourth place was Alexandra Walker. This was Alexandra's first competitive Tough Mudder, although Alexandra has been active in OCR for years, especially on the Savage Race circuit. In fifth place was Margaret Kaderli. This was Margaret's first Toughest Mudder. She's a Texas-based runner that has several ultramarathons on her resume, including winning the Cactus Rose 50-miler. You might remember a couple episodes ago, we made a couple predictions with the elites.
Ryan Atkins is the greatest endurance obstacle course racer in the world. He has never lost a race 8 hours or longer. He is the odds-on favorite to win this race and any other race. I would pick him to win a race against a horse as long as the race was 8 hours long.
That was from our Toughest Mudder South preview episode with Brian Gowiski. Ryan Atkins did end up winning the race. And yeah, I know. Brave call, Will, predicting Ryan Atkins to win. Going out on a real limb there. Okay, how about this one? The top women at Toughest Mudder South last week were Rhea, Allison, Lindsay, and Alexandra Walker.
Those are your top 3 women. Rhea Coble, Allison Tai, Lindsay Webster. I don't know what order they'll finish in. Rhea Coble, Allison Tai, Lindsay Webster. But barring injury, Rhea Coble, Allison Tai, Lindsay Webster, I think those will be the 3 women on top of the podium.
Hang on. I am not done yet.
Alexandra Walker. This will be Alexandra Walker's first Toughest Mudder, really her first competitive Tough Mudder. She did well at TMX Sacramento. She's a wild card. She could finish 4th, or she could finish 4th, or she could finish at 4 a.m. and be done.
Show's over. I'm going to go play the ponies. Show's not over. I lied. 2 more things before we talk with our guests. We have a Merrill Mudder Moment episode coming up soon after these next few Toughest Mudders settle down. If you have a moment from a Tough Mudder course, maybe from Toughest Mudder South or from Toughest Mudder UK this weekend or even Toughest Mudder Australia coming up next week, if there's a moment that impacts you or affects you, or maybe you even see it happening to someone else, send me an email at worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with MMM in the subject line or Merrill Mudder Moments, and just tell me about it. Tell me what happened. Tell the story. And if your Merrill Mudder Moment is selected to win, you'll be a guest on the podcast, and you'll win a free pair of Merrill trail running shoes. So send me an email, worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with Merrill Mutter Moments in the subject line. You may be a guest on the show. Before we talk with our guests, let's read some iTunes reviews. Before we read them, I want to say thank you. A couple episodes ago, I read a kind of negative 3-star review that wasn't crazy about this part of the show. The part of the show that's just me talking. I don't even know what to call it. The intro news portion of our program. And I read it and I talked about it. Since then, I got several DMs and emails about that, basically saying, keep doing what you're doing. And I appreciate that. Very kind. I don't want to blow it out of proportion. It's one review against 150 5-star reviews. Someone in the industry that I respect told me that I have built the show on my sense of humor and Tough Mudder facts. And one guy doesn't like that. So what? Who cares? But thank you for those notes. I appreciate it. If you want, you can copy and paste those nice notes you sent me and put it in a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be even better. Our first review comes from IG:Vic_does_OCR. Vic says, great guests and awesome hosts. 5 stars. Been listening to the show for a while and haven't run a Tough Mudder yet. It's awesome to hear from the elite athletes and all the guests. Like to dabble in the 8-hour toughest next year. Keep it up. I may be the lucky guy to win some Merrills. 5 stars. Thank you, Vic. It blows my mind how many people listen that haven't run a Tough Mudder yet. You guys know what we're talking about, right? I say it in the open. We only talk about World's Toughest Mudder. No other races. I am thrilled you listen, though, Vic. You and everyone else who's curious about this whole Tough Mudder, Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder thing. Welcome. Thank you, Vic. Vic_does_OCR wants me to say the name of his Instagram handle. It's not going to happen, Vic. _does_OCR. Our next review comes from Amazon. Great podcast and medium. 5 stars. Medium, 5 stars. Great podcast and medium. Like I'm a psychic. By Amazon customer. Will does an awesome job covering all things Tough Mudder, events, courses, obstacles, training tips, techniques, etc., and interviewing some of the greatest athletes in the sport. I love the content and how Will delivers everything. 5 stars. Thank you, anonymous Amazon customer. There might be like a 50-50 chance that I know this person, but without their name, it's impossible to tell. The reviewer says, I cover all things Tough Mudder, events, courses, obstacles, training tips, techniques, etc. That's not 100% true. In the year and change, 14, 16 months that we've been doing the show, I don't think I've given a single training tip. That's not true. We had Yancey Culp on last year for 2 episodes, and he talked about training tips for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So, but I know we haven't had a single workout of the week. I promise you that. Those are popular segments on some other shows, but instead of the workout of the week segment, they should call it the look how strong I am segment, or the look at my big glutes segment. If I ever do a workout of the week, you need to come through this microphone and slap me. Our last review comes from Amazon again, from John. John writes, 5 stars. Will is insightful, witty, conducts awesome interviews, and is very passionate about all things Tough Mudder and World's Toughest Mudder. If you're considering running your first Tough Mudder or World's Toughest Mudder, you have to listen to this podcast. That review is from John Hobson, a friend of the show. John was at Toughest Mudder South last week and had a medical reaction to something out there. John, thanks for the kind words. Get well soon, buddy. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Vic, our anonymous friend, and John Hobson, you can leave a review too. On your Apple device, open the Purple Podcast app and search for World's Toughest Podcasts. Click our logo and scroll down to click Write a Review. On Android, go to Amazon.com and search for World's Toughest Podcasts. Click our logo, click the Enable Skill button, and then click the Write a Customer Review button, and I will read it on a future episode. I'm almost caught up on reviews, so leave one right now while you're thinking about it, and I will read it in the next few episodes. Thank you in advance. Don't you hate it when people say that? Thank you in advance. Don't you dare thank me, buddy. I haven't done anything yet. I don't want to owe you something. You thank me afterwards. I don't want you collecting interest on this favor because you prepaid your thank you. Thank me afterwards or not at all. Anyway, if you leave a review, thank you in advance. Shaun Stephens-Whale won second place for the men at Toughest Mudder South with 45 miles in 7 hours and 57 minutes. Allison Tai won second place for the women at Toughest Mudder South with 40 miles in 7 hours and 57 minutes. It's time to talk with Shaun and Allison. Let's go to the phones. Shaun Stephens-Whale, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will.
Shaun, you got second place at Toughest Mudder South with 45 miles. Congratulations.
Thanks, I know it's tough.
Tell me about the race. How did it go for you?
Yeah, I think overall I'm pretty happy with how it went. 8 hours, it's a long time, especially when you haven't, done many 8-hour races before. So it was a bit of a learning curve again for me. I feel like I handled it pretty well, cramping the last 3 hours, but I think most people were probably in the same boat as me. Overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it went.
You, Ryan Atkins, and Brian Gawiski were not all together, but you were the lead pack for a lot of the race, and that you actually led for the first 3 laps. Tell me about the beginning of the race.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what was going on, but a couple guys, they were pretty much sprinting off the line. So me and Atkins were holding back a bit in comparison. I guess the guys who sprinted off the line were going a bit too fast, though, because they missed a turn on the course. So Atkins and I were leading for most of the first lap. And then on the second lap, that's when Brian sort of came up to us. He actually didn't even realize we were in front of him. I guess it was a bit chaotic at the start, and with the night race, it's sort of difficult to tell where your competition is. So, yeah, we ended up running together for a lap or two. And, I guess some of the obstacles are just a bit tricky to navigate, so that's when separation started to occur.
So you had, at least looking at the split times, it looks like you were in front in those first 3 laps. Is that kind of, and then Atkins took the lead. There wasn't any, but you guys were mostly together for the first 30 miles. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was necessarily in front. I'd say we were running together for a large majority of that first 30 miles. Yeah, it's really nice to have someone to be sort of running with in those early stages, because it is a long race, and when you want to conserve some energy, so you don't want to go too hard, and it's nice to have someone else there to sort of pace you through it. And if you're talking to them and it feels easy, then it probably is the right pace, as opposed to if you're like 10 miles in and you don't even want to talk to the guy standing next or running next to you, then you're probably going a bit too hard. So yeah, I mean, for the first 30 miles, we pretty much ran together. Yeah.
So what do you talk about with Ryan Atkins for 30 miles in the middle of the night?
Oh man, it was all over the place. Yeah. A lot about rock climbing. Atkins is quite into climbing, and I'm hoping to get more involved in it because I feel it is very beneficial for something like obstacle course racing. Here in Squamish, I moved to Squamish a couple months ago, and I'm training out here with Michelle Ford. And so Michelle and I are training together quite often, and she's sort of getting into rock climbing as well. And so it's sort of exciting having other people who are excited and involved in it with you. Yeah, but I mean, we sort of talked about a bunch of things. Like it all is sort of like a daze and a dream right now, because all the laps sort of kind of like just mingled together. But yeah, it was a fun run.
Tell me about when the separation occurred, about 30, 35 miles in.
Yeah, so I guess on rope-a-dope, right at the end, coming up to 30 miles, my calf just cramped up like crazy. It seized. I've never had that issue before. And I just sort of massage it and calm it down a bit before I could start running again. And I think at that point is when I realized sort of my hope of keeping up and maybe beating Atkins was sort of going out the window. And so I had to switch focuses to just sort of maintain a decent run and try and make it the full 8 hours after that. And so, yeah, sort of my mind shift changed at about 30 miles, I would say, when my calf went. And then, I mean, from there on out, it was all sort of downhill for me. A lot of cramping, a lot of thoughts of giving up, but, just trying to really push through. I guess at mile 35, Allison Tai, I'm not sure if I passed her or she passed me, but she came out of the aid station or I guess the finish line, or just in front of me. And I kind of used her as a bunny because she was rolling fast. Allison was killing it out there. And I pretty much just tried to keep her in sight for that last 10 miles because my body was breaking apart pretty bad. And she really helped me get through that.
When you say use her as a bunny, you kind of pace off of her?
Yeah, so I guess it worked out perfectly that I had lapped her just when my body had decided to give up on me. And so from that point on, all I could do, I was trying my hardest just not to let her out of my sight. Yeah.
That's a pretty wide emotional swing from like right there neck and neck with Atkins, thinking you had a shot to win it, to cramping up and maybe I should just quit. How did you work through that?
Yeah, no, it's very difficult too. I think a big motivation for me was I had done one toughest before in Whistler last year, and I want to say it was worse this time, but I decided to throw in the white towel at 40 miles, and Robert Killian was able to. I was in front of Robert Killian at 40 miles when I just decided to throw in the white towel, but he was able to get another lap in. And that I don't know. I just felt like I gave in too easily there. And that was sort of in the back of my mind. Those last 10 miles, I was like, I can do this. I can get through it. Just keep running. Just one obstacle at a time.
That toughest mudder Whistler you're talking about, that was a pretty crazy finish. You finished your last lap in second place. Killian finished behind you in third. And he had just enough time to go out and do another lap and kind of steal second place from you. Do you think that?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was incredible what he was able to do. I thought he did not have enough time to do another lap, but he was really able to push through that. And I mean, that's testament to him as a person and as an athlete. Yeah, kudos.
So you think that experience kind of helped you, secure second place this weekend?
I think so. Yeah, just I was a bit more gritty out there. I kind of refused to give up. It was a bit of a trip to get to Texas from Vancouver, so I knew I didn't want to make it not give everything that I had.
A thought I get sometimes, 2/3 through a race is, well, even if I stop right now, I've already had a good race. Do you ever, and sometimes those are like loser thoughts, do you ever deal with that or wrestle with that when you're running?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think a big part of what makes these events so great is that you always have someone else on the course cheering you on. There's a lot of camaraderie out there, and that definitely helped push me through those last few laps when all I really wanted to do was curl up and fall asleep.
How did you do on the obstacles on the course?
Pretty well. I was actually very happy with how I performed on all of them. There were a couple of them that I didn't really like. Everest 2.0 was right at the end of each lap. And one of the issues with that is it's really one of those obstacles that you need someone to assist you on. It's very difficult. The rope was very slippery and difficult to get up on your own. And so if you didn't have someone at the top helping you, it was sort of like you just had to do the penalty. And so fortunately for me and Atkins, for the first 30 miles when we were running together, we were able, and same with Brian too, when he was running with us, we were able to use someone, and they decided to stay to help us all through the obstacle. But I think that one's just it's difficult when you're in competition like that, because I mean, you want to be cool and you want to help other people, but at the same time, you want to be competitive and you want to win. And so it's a bit of a mixed emotion going through that, because you want to push through it, but at the same time, you want to help other people out.
What did you think about the other obstacles? Just the tip.
Just the tip, that was, so as soon as the first time I went on that, I was right beside Atkins. And so how just the tip works is it's like this double-sided floating board almost. And so one person can sort of shimmy across the board on one side, and one person can shimmy across the board on the other side, but it wobbles. And so if one person on one of the sides falls off, it sort of screws up your balance. And what happened is the first time me and Atkins got to it, we both had that issue where there was someone on our other side of the board and they fell off for both of us. And so we ended up both falling off. And after that, the penalty was so quick and short that we just both decided to skip the obstacle from there on out.
Did you guys talk about that, like kind of an agreement, like, hey, let's just skip it? Or was it just kind of individual?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were definitely some words exchanged about that. And I think it just sort of made sense not to do that one. Another obstacle that I had some issues with was happy endings, right at the finish. So how it works is you climb this rope, and then on the other side there's like this slide, and it's like an aluminum slide. I'm not sure what they use for the slide material, but my shorts got caught on it, and I ripped like a giant hole on the underside of my half tights right around my butt, and ended up running like half the race with this giant rip in my butt. And apparently I got a lot of comments about it, but apparently it was pretty bad.
Shaun, I didn't realize until just now that was you. I was behind you in Kiss of Mud, and I saw that, and I thought, well, that guy's having a race right there.
Was it bad? I don't know.
It wasn't just a rip. It was like, the size of a small soccer ball, like a cantaloupe could have, there was less short than short there.
Oh boy. Yeah.
What did you think of the changes they made to Funky Monkey?
I actually enjoyed that. I am pretty good with corpse. And so for me, muscling through sort of those diagonal monkey bars wasn't an issue. I mean, overall, I really enjoyed the obstacle that they had out on the course. It was sort of a very dynamic course, I would say. There was a lot of different sort of terrain you had to go through, despite it not being very undulating. Like that long swamp section where you're sort of just slogging through a creek for what seems like, I don't know, like 5 or 10 minutes. That was kind of cool, actually. I enjoyed that.
You finished at 7:57 in the morning with 45 miles, second place secure. How did that feel, knowing that your second place couldn't be taken away?
It was good. I mean, in that last lap, that was really what was motivating me to get to the finish line. There were definitely times in that last lap where I just wanted to just walk it in and just take it easy, but I had no idea where Brian was, and I felt like at the pace I was going, if I slowed down anymore, there was a good chance he was going to catch me. So I was very, very happy to finish second in that one.
Are you going to run any more Toughest Mudders this year?
I hope so, yeah. I think I was able to learn a couple things from this race that I can take away to improve on future performances. And so I definitely hope to be back and maybe challenging Atkins a bit later in the race next time.
What are some of those things you learned you're going to take with you?
So I think the big thing is pit stops on each lap. Atkins was maybe, I mean, he probably maximum took 5 to 7 seconds, where I was taking 30 seconds to a minute. I think one of the issues was that I wasn't carrying anything on the course with me. And so what I might do next time is I've got this spy belt, which is kind of like just a fanny belt. And I might just put a gel or two in every lap and just sort of eat those gels during the lap and then exchange them and go out again. So I can save, 30 seconds to a minute every lap, which in the early stages would help later on. In addition to that, I think just getting some longer runs in might be useful to help prevent cramping later in the race, and maybe just trying to consume a bit more salt.
Your second place finish qualifies you as an elite contender for World's Toughest Mudder 2018. Are you going to run in Atlanta?
Oh boy, it's a long way off. I would like to. It's it's one of those things where it is a big commitment. So I'm going to see how the rest of my season goes, and if I decide to do it, I might do a ultra before it, maybe like 100-miler, just to get used to what that sort of distance feels like. And you might see me there.
Shaun, do you have any sponsors or anything you'd like to plug?
Not at the moment. Currently looking. So, yeah. I feel like Michelle has been a huge help to me out here in Squamish. So, kudos to her. And obviously my dad was at the race, so like to thank him for being out there and supporting me.
Hey, your pit crew?
Yeah, he was my pit crew, and he was great out there. It's really encouraging and sort of provided me everything I needed.
That's a big trip just to come down and work pit crew, Canada to Texas.
Yeah, my dad's always been my biggest supporter at all my races, and he's really the one who got me involved in athletics at a young age. And so, I owe everything to him. So, yeah, it's been great.
Shaun, any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder South?
Not really. I hope, the other races aren't quite as tough as this one, I guess.
Shaun Stephens-Whale, thanks much.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Allison Tai, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Allison, you got second place at Toughest Mudder South. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You got 40 miles in 7 hours and 57 minutes. We're talking on Tuesday, a few days after the race. How do you feel?
I'm pretty good. I bumped up my knee a little bit when I fell, so it's still a little swollen. And then I had a little bit of a tweaky calf going the whole time, and so that's still a little bit tight and sore. But other than those two spots, the rest of my body feels okay. But I'm certainly not back running yet or anything. Normally, Tuesday after a toughest, I'm kind of, doing some easy running or something like that. But today, just decided I'd take another rest day just because, the body's just not feeling 100% yet. But hopefully I'll be good to go for tomorrow and just, do some low impact sort of stuff that won't bother my calf and just kind of ease back into things slowly.
Did the Texas race take more out of you than a usual toughest race then?
Not really more out of me. I just, my calf was just tweaky the whole time. So I think it just ended up getting really tight. So it's more just I have these kind of two little niggly injuries now. But I think those races always take a lot out of you, just being overnight and stuff like that. I feel like they just kind of mess with your metabolism. And, I always travel back the day after. And so that ends up being really hard, I think, too, on the body, just taking a whole, missing a whole night's sleep sort of thing. And then getting in, usually I get in quite late on Sunday and then I just collapse. And Monday's pretty much a write-off for any productive thinking. But, I think they always take a little bit out of you. It's just the knee from falling, and I don't think I cleaned it properly. So I think I maybe, got a little infected there, and then, just my calf from being tweaky. But I had a massage this morning, and it feels a lot better. I was having trouble keeping up with my 4-year-old walking up the hill to pick my 7-year-old up from school yesterday. So it's definitely come a long way since yesterday.
That's not really a fair race anyway, because those kids are fast. You turn around for 1 minute, and they're gone.
I know. I don't normally have that problem with my pokey 4-year-old. She's kind of she'd just like to stop and smell the flowers every 5 seconds. But I'm wait for me. So she came back and held my hand. She's I got you, Mom. It's that's pretty cute.
Tell me about your race. How did the race go for you?
It was good. Like I said, I tweaked. I started wearing these. I had a weird neuroma thing in my foot where like the two bones basically squish one of my nerves. And I found that the Ultra Kings at King MTs were doing really well to like splay my feet. But the fact that they're zero drop really, I think, just kind of aggravated my calf. And strangely, on the way to the start line, I kind of, like when you're running and you just get that little like bing. And so I'm like, oh man, is my race over? Because I haven't even gone to the start line yet. But I just kind of like worked it out a little bit and stuff before the gun went off, and then took it kind of slowly. And I kind of felt it all night, but it never like, really like snapped or, made it never felt like an injury. It was just kind of like, I am here and I am tight. So I think that kind of helped me actually pace a little bit, because normally, as you know, I like to go out pretty fast, but I wasn't going to do that on the tweaky calf, so maybe, it worked out in the end. But so with the tweaky calf and stuff, I started a little bit slow, but I really like the course. Just like kind of the mix of like really muddy and then some technical terrain and just kind of like swooping through the forest there. And then there was some like flat, easy runnable stuff. And then the obstacles were really fun. And yeah, I just liked a lot of it. A lot of people are out too. That, makes a big difference in terms of just having the community there. So yeah, lots of aspects I really liked. I think Tough Mudder did a really good job in terms of listening to people's concerns and just reacting really well and kind of bringing it back to the way things were. I didn't go to either the courses that people weren't loving, but it does seem to me like they reacted and made a really good course, at least for the toughest overnight. So
going into the race, the conventional wisdom was that it'd be you, Rhea, and Lindsay in the top three, but we didn't know how it would shake out. How'd the race go between the three of you?
Well, they both kind of tore off at the beginning and duked it out at the front there. And then I guess Lindsay was just having a hard time. It just wasn't her night. That was just not, we all have bad days, and unfortunately they land on races. So Lindsay didn't have a great race, and she kind of pulled back, and I passed her at just the tip. I started doing the penalty on that one because I realized it took way less time and effort to just, jump onto the penalty. So, she had already figured that out at that point. So yeah, I caught up to her and we chatted for a little bit and raced side by side. And then she just said, yeah, you know what, you go ahead kind of thing. And we'll see if I see you when I perk back up after this next lap. And I think her headlamp was a little bit dull and stuff, but she didn't want to run with me and use my train headlamp because she wasn't feeling 100%. And then, yeah, I just didn't see her after, unfortunately. I thought I would. I asked you on course, and I was like, I don't know where she is, but I know she's just going to, like, smoke past me all of a sudden. But I guess it just wasn't her night, and she called it at 35 miles just because she was kind of safe in third. So, yeah, that's kind of how it worked. And then I got up, I think, a minute and 20 seconds behind Rhea, so it's quite close behind her, but I think she kind of felt the heat coming from behind, and she turned on that next gear and just gave her. So, but it made for a really fun race, I think, for the women, because we're usually so spread out. And this race, we were, kind of changing positions there at the end. So it did definitely make for an interesting race for us and for the people watching, I guess. So yeah, it was good times.
Ray told me she saw you at one of the obstacles. Some of the penalty loops kind of looped back toward the obstacle. She was leaving the penalty and she saw you coming up to an obstacle, and it kind of freaked her out toward the end of the race.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't see her. I was looking, but I couldn't see her. But yeah, it's kind of fun because when you're that close, because everybody was like, she's right in front of you, she's right in front of you. So every time I come into an obstacle, or we're at lap back, or, that place where we were kind of wading through the water, that was a slow place. So it was easy to see people that were just in front of you, but I never got a look at her. She was like some phantom up ahead because everybody's like, she's right there. And I'm like, really? Because I haven't seen her. So if she is, she's good at hiding. But I didn't actually see her myself, but I just kind of knew because everybody was saying that she was just in front of me. So it just definitely gave you that kind of carrot. And then having Lindsay behind me, I didn't know that she had dropped at that point. So it was definitely like the carrot and the stick for me in those last few laps. Like being sandwiched between two of the best athletes in the world is kind of a scary place, but it was also lots of fun. Just made it into kind of a game, so it's good, especially the last hours of a race when you get so disengaged and kind of out of it. It was fun to have that kind of game playing at the end. the chasing and the being chased. It was good.
That's interesting to think about because, yeah, you're getting it from both sides. Like, you want to catch the next person. You got to think about speeding up. But you need to worry about the person behind you.
Yeah, and I mean, both things work in sync, right? So, if you are running from somebody behind you and catching up, it works both ways, right? So I guess it's kind of that position where you're like, what is going to motivate me more? Because I know a lot of people really like to chase people, and a lot of people really like to be chased. So I guess if you're stuck behind or between two like incredible athletes, you just kind of have to pick which one you want to like focus on, which one is more motivating for you, and then stick with that.
You passed me at Kiss of Mud, and I was surprised. I said, Allison, are you in second? You said, yeah. I was like, good job. And you said, yeah, but I got Lindsay right behind me.
I was also surprised, Will. I was also surprised.
I didn't mean that. I wasn't like,
kind of one of those things where I was like, no, I was legit surprised. I was like, what? This isn't, because in my head, it was going to be Ray or Lindsay, and I was super excited to see how that would work. And then I was going to be battling it out for third. But, just with Lindsay having a bad day, it kind of shook things up a little bit. So yeah, I was surprised, but, and I think somebody said she's like, 9 minutes back or something like that. She's probably going to be out of this race, but I was like, do not discount her because she could, just go in and have an energy drink or, a shot of sugar, and she's got, endless energy, and she's just going to come chase us both down. So you can really never count her out. Just, doesn't matter how bad of a day she's having, she could always come back. And so there's one thing I know about Lindsay, it's that she could be 20 minutes back in a race, and it's only 3 miles to go, and somehow she makes up that ground. So you can definitely never count her out. But it was pretty neat being able to play with those girls. They're just such phenomenal athletes, and just to be able to race with them was pretty cool.
Another time when you passed me, I ran with you for 2 or 3 minutes, and after we were running and talking for a minute, and then I said something like, well, I'm going to let you go. And then you took off. Well, I stopped and you took off. And I told that story to someone afterwards, and they're like, oh, you let her go? That was real kind of you.
Nice.
Like I had a choice.
You totally did. You could have. Yeah, you totally could have beat me, but
yeah,
you let me ahead.
You run faster at like 30 miles in than I run faster at 3 miles in.
Well, it's funny because that may sound really fantastic, but I really only run one speed. So it seems like I run faster, I think, as the race goes on, but I feel like I'm probably just running the exact same speed the entire time because I don't really have very many gears to choose from.
This is the second consecutive Tough Mudder race where you and Rhea have finished first and second. Is there a little rivalry between the two of you, or what are you guys? Or what is your relationship like?
Yeah, I never thought of that. Oh, we're tight, her and I. I was the one that was trying to kind of push her. I'm sure a lot of people were, but trying to push her into Tough Mudder just because this is totally her wheelhouse. She's just got a really strong running background, and now that she's training with Yancey Culp, I'm sure her grip is just going to be phenomenal, and she's just going to be a force. But I mean, there's kind of a playful rivalry because we do race each other quite a bit, just like any of the people on the scene. But we're certainly just very friendly, and she's always open to helping me, and I'm always open to helping her. And yeah, she's one of those people that's just so sweet and awesome that you're just happy to see her do well, right?
You mentioned you liked the obstacle course and kind of the course overall. What did you think of the individual obstacles, just the tip or the new Funky Monkey?
I hated the Funky Monkey because I didn't make it. So that was really just on me. I could not for the life of me figure it out. And I think it was just because it was slippery too. And then just it being new, I was like, it took me a while to figure out that you were supposed to grab the wood from the other side. And oh man, I was just trying to skip it and go straight from bar to bar. So I really struggled on the Spunky Monkey, I think they were calling it. But I'm hoping that for the next race, I can kind of get that one down. And I love just the tip. That was a good one. It did get pretty slippery later on, and the penalty was pretty short. It was kind of one of those things where it just made so much more sense to take the penalty on that one after I saw what the penalty was. But yeah, the other obstacles, I like the combination of them. I wish that they would open up Kong Infinity first and then put Kong later, rather than the other way. I don't know why they do that. If anything, they should put the harder obstacles on us when we're fresh. But maybe they just want to provide that extra challenge. But Kong Infinity is another one of my favorites. So I was kind of happy when they had that out, but and I found the rings were fine, but the bars were really slippery on that when I hit them. So I kind of had to like lock off and get really high to get through the monkey bars. So it was a pretty tiring obstacle that late in the game, and just having everything slippery. I think the new obstacles and then the slipperiness together just, created quite a challenge for people.
I've seen you do the chicken wing, I don't know what you call it, going through Kong, where you stick your arm through to the elbow. Were you able to do that on Kong Infinity?
Oh, no, I go the whole way. No, I don't even bother on Kong Infinity. On Kong Infinity, honestly, I just go backwards and match hands. And then when I get to the bars, usually I just like normal monkey bar with my arms straight, but this time I had to be like totally 90 degrees at the elbows, or else I probably would have slipped off just because they seem pretty slippery. But no, with Kong, I don't even just stick my elbow in there. I stick my entire arm. One time I put my elbow in because I heard somebody on your podcast, oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. But anyways, he was saying that, you probably remember this, he put his elbow in, and then I tried that and it was awesome. But then my biceps started cramping one time. So then I stuck my entire arm in and realized, like, hey, this is a lot easier for me, but only because I'm so small. And then I did it again, like, usually if there's just rings and I'm tired, I'll do it. Unless I want to, it's not a fast way to do it. So if you're trying to race down the rings, it's probably not your go-to technique. But so I did it in Seattle because I had some time. And I didn't want to fall off, and it was quite slippery. And so I put my whole arm in like I normally do, but then a whole bunch of people started commenting on this picture, like, oh, I'm going to try that. Like, that's going to be my technique. I'm going to figure that out. And I'm like, yeah, maybe just go for the elbow because, like a lot of the people were like pretty big. And I like huge guys with huge muscular arms. I'm like, I don't even know your arm's going to fit in there like mine does. Forget all that body weight hanging on your shoulder, right? So it's definitely not a technique for everybody, but if you're like pretty tiny, then it might work. But I'm not sure that it's totally safe. It's just kind of what I do. I'm always like, don't do it. Just go to the elbow. But for me, I literally stick my entire arm in there. And the only thing where it gets a little dicey is popping out at the end. You kind of have to pull and get your shoulder out before it snaps in half. But I feel like I've done it enough times that it's just become totally comfortable for me. So yeah, it's now kind of my signature ring move, I guess, is sticking my whole body through those things. But there's no way you're coming off without dislocating a shoulder, for better or for worse.
You make it sound terrifying. It looks so easy on a video.
No, it is easy, but I'm pretty sure if you were big, like I've never seen anybody who is like a large dude do it with like a ton of muscle mass. It's going to be yanking down on them. It doesn't hurt me because I'm so small, but somebody who's like really muscular or something, I just feel like it might not be good for their shoulder joint. So I hope that I haven't increased the duties for the med tent like 30-fold at Spartan races now that came out, and everybody's like, I'm also going to do that.
Allison Tai said I should.
Oh man, I know, yeah. And then the whole med tent's gonna be like, damn, this Allison Tai sticking her whole arm thing through the rings. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be like the next thing you are not allowed to do because a whole bunch of people rip their shoulder out of their socket or something. But yeah,
Are you gonna beat any other toughest races this year?
I am, yeah. We're actually currently packing to go to Australia, so we'll be there, and we're going to hang out and rent a camper van and drive around until the OCR World Championships Enduro race. That's also in Australia, and then we'll head back here. So it's kind of like a family vacation, kind of sandwiched between the toughest and the Enduro. So lots of fun. I'm super excited, and I think the races are going to be fun. Just totally new location and totally new crowd, and I'm sure we'll see some of the diehards out there, but for the most part, it's just going to be a whole bunch of people I haven't met yet. So it should be pretty neat.
That'd be cool to do an international one. It'll be a whole new, there might be a few people but 99% of them will be brand new. Yeah, it'll just be really neat. I just talked to Deanna Blake, and she's not going to be able to make it to the toughest, unfortunately, but she's going to be at the Enduro, so there'll be enough familiar faces that also probably kind of feel like, I'm right at home, but a lot of new people to meet, and Aussies are just amazing. So it should be a really, really fun time. Are you going to be at World's Toughest Mudder in Atlanta this year?
course I am. Yeah, I'm coming back, and then I'll do tougher in Whistler the next week after the Enduro, so it might be horrifically painful and slow, but I'll be out there, and then I'm going to go to Boston, and then the next stop, I guess, then there's the LA, the rescheduled race, possibly Berlin, and then I will definitely be at World's Toughest Mudder. How could I miss it?
I'm looking to do Berlin also. That should be fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't booked flights or anything yet. I'm still kind of on the fence, but I think if my body holds up after this insane May-June scenario, I'll definitely be there. So,
Allison, do you have any sponsors or anything you'd like to plug?
I don't know. Same as always. Super thankful for Yeti and all his work. Since I'm one of the roster athletes, he's really helped with my grip, and he's just a phenomenal human being, as everybody that knows him knows. So I've just been super lucky for that, and then just working with Tough Mudder this year, and a ton of great stuff on the go. So yeah, all just very exciting stuff, and just constantly being supported by the members of the community, and that's always just a huge thing for me. It's just going out there and, like, even if somebody just recognizes you and says, like, hey, Allison, go, or whatever, they're reading your name off your bib or whatever it is, it just means, like, the world to me when you're out there and you get that, like, moment of connection with people. So I just can't ever be grateful enough for that, I guess.
Allison, any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder South?
No, I'm just excited to get to the next one now. First one of the year is underway, and had a really good time, and just, pumped to get to the next one, and just excited for what this season's going to hold.
Allison Tai, thanks much.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad your ACL held up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It did all right. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Allison.
Special thanks to Shaun Stephens-Whale and Allison Tai for appearing in this episode. Well done, you two. They are both from Canada. Well done, Canada. Good luck to everyone running Europe's Toughest Mudder this weekend. You are going to do great. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Amazon.com. Go spend time with someone you love.